to IPFW's Mastodon Career Calls. I'm really excited about today's webinar. It's focusing on how to appropriately leave a job. You just don't say, I quit. There's some tips and strategies in order to do that. And today we have DeAndre Green and Dave Eng, and they both work in human resources with UPS, and excited to hear what they have to say. I want to take a quick moment and thank our corporate sponsor, Quincy Recycle, for sponsoring the Mastodon Career Call webinars. You can find more information about positions they're hiring for on our website. And just want to remind everybody that we have another webinar in February on the 20th focusing on resume writing and what to include and not to include. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dave and DeAndre.
Okay, hello and welcome. Thank you, Ashley. Welcome to the I Quit webinar. We are your hosts, as Ashley said. I'm Dave Eng. This is DeAndre Green. We are HR reps for UPS, but please note that our thoughts and expressions in the presentation today don't necessarily reflect the policies or practices of UPS. You should see a poll on your screen there. We ask that you take a moment. I see some of you already have, and answer that question. We will be reviewing the responses and a couple of things with that later in the presentation. We should have some time also at the end for some questions about any informational pieces there in the presentation today.
All right, here are just a couple of brief stats about UPS and what we do as a company. We're a worldwide leader in logistics since 1907. Our corporate headquarters are located in Atlanta, Georgia. And currently, we employ approximately 400,000 employees worldwide, providing service to over 220 countries and territories. If you're interested in careers, please check out career opportunities at www.upsjobs.com.
Okay, so today we'll be covering some do's and don'ts to consider before leaving a job. Believe it or not, there is a right and wrong way to do that. So we'll be taking a look at some generally accepted practices to leave a job in a positive light. And finally, we'll take a brief look at some impacts that social media plays when making a decision to leave a job.
This next slide here will pretty much explain what you don't want to do. No matter the situation itself, please do not burn the bridge. There's an infinite number of reasons why people leave their jobs. And no matter why you've made the decision, don't burn the bridge. You may also find, for example, that in a specific industry, today's co-workers could be tomorrow's supervisor or manager. Networking is a very important tool. It's not just in the books. We live it every day. But an important tool in your professional tool belt. So it's important to keep open the lines of communication whenever possible. So don't burn the bridge.
Okay, good idea. So next slide here, do's and don'ts. We'll start with that. And see our little friend here. She's quitting to pursue her dream of not working here any longer. So first we're going to go ahead and give you some do's and don'ts when it comes to the actual reason to leave a job. Leaving a job should not be a snap decision without really giving some careful consideration.
All right, here are some generally accepted reasons to make an employment move. For one, you may feel that you're stuck in whatever job that you have, that there's no growth in that job, and that may cause you to want to leave that particular employer. Also, number two, a good reputation and advancement in a new company. If the company that you're signing on with has better advancement opportunities or a solid reputation that could lead to further opportunities elsewhere, hey, it may be a great career move for you. As we'll see in a later slide, for number three, when it comes to changing career paths has become a more frequent it's more frequent in our culture today, and you may find yourself changing directions. Number four, higher paying job offer and more hours. Higher paying, that one right there is self-explanatory, but it could be in terms of a higher base salary. It also could mean the same salary with more hours. Number five, you may you and your views may not be compatible with your company's views. Maybe the company has a different plan for you than what you have in mind for yourself. Your supervisor may see you as the next superstar sales rep, but you prefer to go into the accounting department. You just want your cubicle to yourself, nice peaceful day, whatever. Or maybe you decide that the company's business strategies are questionable. For example, advertising a big sale after having temporarily marked up the prices, which you may consider to be unethical. So there are many different reasons why you may choose to leave your job.
So it's also important that we look at some reasons not to leave your job. We'll see 5 listed here. My boss is a jerk. My mom made me quit. My manager is stupid. Maybe I was passed over for promotion. Maybe I'm just simply bored at work. But it is important as we go through some reasons not to leave your job that we point out the difference between these 2 slides. The first slide listed some quantitative attributes about the job or the new job offer. Well, this slide represents largely subjective feelings in response to situations at work. You know, for example, number 1 and 3, my boss is a jerk or my manager is stupid. My boss being a jerk may be a result of a conflict in the relationship there at work versus my manager being stupid indicates maybe I think that I'm a higher level of education than my manager, maybe that I could do the job better. Those would be a little more subjective, opinionated responses. I don't want to get in a conversation about measuring your boss's jerkiness, but it is important to note what a company may record as your reason for departure. This reason may come back to haunt you later, or maybe at your next job interview when asked why you left that previous job. Saying that your boss was a jerk is probably not going to get the response that you thought it might, although you're telling the truth in your mind. As far as being bored at work, I might also challenge you here to ask yourself a question. What am I doing to challenge myself? Many organizations are taking more of a hands-on approach with development, both self-development and other development, and offer many different opportunities for employees to develop themselves both internally and externally. I know a lot of that happens here at IPFW as well, so very important to make use of anything that you can to develop yourself.
Here's what I like to refer to as best case scenario. Okay, the best problem in terms of leaving a job, another offer. Occasionally a job offer comes along that you didn't anticipate. Okay, good problem to have, right? It's very important, however, to handle that problem decisively. First off, and I'll go through these 7 pointers here. Tell your current employer that you have an offer on the table. Be upfront, be truthful, and be honest about it. Communication goes a long way and may have unexpected results. As an example, your boss may decide to give you that long overdue raise. Okay, put more money on the table for you. You don't want to burn any bridges, especially if that new offer is in a field, you're not directly familiar with. You may find yourself 3 months in the job, hating it, and asking your old boss for your job back. When an opportunity is presented, be sure to hear out the entire offer. Okay, don't get caught up in one intriguing piece of the pie. A lot of times people look at the compensation. What's the dollar amount? But a couple things that you have to keep in mind is that a larger salary, yes, it can be exciting until you factor in other things such as the commute. How much is it going to cost you? Maybe it's the position's a lot further away. Expected hours, childcare. And now, maybe this new employer, you have higher premiums to pay for your medical benefits. So those are factors, additional factors that you must include and you must look at when it comes to making that decision. So you want to basically get the big picture. Compare, contrast, and if appropriately, creatively counteroffer to make the best decision possible. Keep in mind what career path you're working towards or would like to pursue when making this decision. You want to read the room. Read the room knowing your audience means this here. You don't want to walk into a room and demand an 8% increase from your current employer when they feasibly, as far as a corporate policy, can only offer you a 3.5% increase. And then lastly, after evaluating your options carefully and thoroughly, make a decision promptly. Generally speaking, you should accept or decline an offer within 2 weeks. That's generally acceptable from employer to employer. If you wait for your present employer to match the new salary, the old employer or the new employer to counteroffer, you may find yourself losing out on both deals. So don't drag things out. Make a decision promptly and decisively.
Okay, so it's important to note here that 2 weeks notice is the standard, but here are some helpful things to consider, and that some industries may vary from this. So for example here, 4 weeks is the customary amount of time in higher education. It's also important to note unemployment benefits. So I gave the example that you may find the possibility of giving your boss 2 weeks notice and they let you go that day. So is there going to be some time where you're out of work between jobs? And are you eligible for unemployment benefits? We have included a link to the U.S. Department of Labor here in the slideshow with more information on the unemployment process that you can kind of dig around there and find out if Microsoft Word, which we will cover in a few slides here. But it is customary for you to submit your 2 weeks notice in writing, certainly not just verbal. Hey, I'm done. I'm quitting. And it's very important that you also don't use a very informal approach such as text messages. Hey boss, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm done. Okay. Templates for resignation letters can easily be found in Microsoft Word. There are also many web-based apps that have information for templates for these documents. Asking for a reference is also something to consider. That may or may not be an absolute there, but asking for a reference is appropriate when you've left the company amicably. If you were terminated because of a professional conduct violation, maybe involving sexual harassment towards your boss, you're probably not going to ask your boss for a letter of recommendation. So it's important to know the circumstances there and keep those things in mind and know if a letter of reference is appropriate. Going back to what DeAndre said earlier, know the room, know your audience. If you and your boss had a working relationship that was very professional, very close, and you feel that would be a positive perspective on your outlook as an employee or a hire, that may be something you want to ask for. Also want to consider if your company owes you any sick pay or vacation time, if you have a 401k needs rolled over. Exit interviews, finding out if your company does exit interviews is something that we do employ. Be honest but professional. When used accordingly, exit interviews can provide valuable feedback to the company to learn and grow from. So be open and honest, but be professional. That's the key there. This isn't the time to air everyone's dirty laundry or to talk about your manager's shortcomings on the job. So clean personal files off your computer. I would start off by saying I recommend you don't keep personal files on your computer, but if you do, you want to make sure that you remove them as soon as you made the decision to leave. Keep in mind also that many companies have data security measures in place with backing up the hard drives, so your personal files may already be stored without you knowing, and that's why it's the best practice to not store the personal items on your work computer in the first place. And then the last one here, saying goodbye to colleagues, again, touching on that networking piece. It's always a good idea to say goodbye to your coworkers when leaving a job. It helps maintain professional friendships. As DeAndre mentioned earlier, today's coworker could be tomorrow's boss, so it is important that you maintain that network. And it also could help solidify or provide closure to your decision to leave. If you walk in and start telling people goodbye and that you're leaving, and they're nonchalant and don't care, that's going to help you feel better about your move. And also, again, can solidify the friendships and the networking in the other spectrum.
All right, now what we'll do is we'll take a look at the poll and the results that you all submitted for that poll. When you first signed in, you were posed the question: if you were offered your dream job today, how would you leave your current job? Okay, the choices that you had were to inform your boss that today is your last day. You could also give a 2 weeks notice to quit, or you could resign, offering to stay until a replacement was found. 66.7% of you all who responded went with give 2 weeks notice to quit, which is the generally acceptable time frame in which you're going to give your employer to quit. Resigning with an unspecified time frame may backfire in one of several ways. As an example, your employer may dismiss you immediately, or the prospective employer could take their offer off the table because there was too much delay. So you have to look at the situation, you have to look at your current employer, you have to look at the offer that's on the table for you, and take all of those factors into account when you make the decision. But generally, the 2 weeks notice is more acceptable.
Okay, so DeAndre, how can I give a letter of 2 weeks notice? How about this next one here?
Now, who would consider this to be the best possible way?
Yeah, that might be a good option there. Thanks, Eric, for that heads up that you're leaving us. We appreciate that feedback. So obviously this is an example, folks, of how not to notify your employer of a resignation. So here would be a good example of how to.
Now this right here, we touched a little bit on a little bit earlier as far as resumes, different things that you can find. A resignation letter is one that you can find in Microsoft Word as well. You can also take a little bit of time, as we do with most things nowadays, and Google it. You'll be able to find many different resignation letters as far as the format on Google as well. It's up to you in terms of how much information you include in that resignation letter. You may want to give a specific reason. You may not want to give a specific reason. It all depends, again, on the situation and the employer as far as the amount of information that you put in your resignation letter. But generally speaking, providing that resignation letter is the best route to go.
So on that note, then, there are several reasons or circumstances when giving 2 weeks notice would not be acceptable or necessary or even appropriate. So for example, here are a couple of them: physical abuse, if there's some physical abuse happening in the workplace, any form of sexual harassment, if there's been large amounts of stress or it's affecting your mental health, and possibly not being paid or paid promptly or properly. Maybe there's an unsafe work environment, and this could be several factors. This could be unsafe physically. Maybe the equipment that you're working on or around has not been maintained, or there are some issues there that are not being addressed. You brought them to the attention of the staff and they're not being appropriately responded to. Or maybe there's an ethical dilemma. I think the example DeAndre gave earlier about raising prices of items and then claiming a big sale. Or maybe you're being asked to do something or to report something in a way that conflicts with your ethical standards. If you find yourself in any of these situations, you definitely want to seek the advice of human resources at your organization. It's very important that you get help appropriately depending on the situation.
Here's an interesting quote from Bruce Tolgan, who's a Gen XY consultant and co-author of Managing the Generation Mix. And it really speaks to anyone out there who is thinking of quitting, or let's call it leaving, the employer that you're with now, and that you're not alone. The typical career path is changing, says Bruce. In the past, people were likely to have fewer jobs over the course of their careers than they will today. And as a result, there's less stigma surrounding quitting than there was in the past. So again, you're not alone. If you take a look at the statistics that are presented in this recent Harris study, it says that 80% of workers in their 20s want to change career paths. All right, a staggering statistic, 80%. It also goes into my group here, 64% in their 30s want to change career paths, as well as 54% in their 40s. Now, this is not saying just they want to change jobs and stay in the same career path, but it's saying that the career path, people are looking to change their career paths in general. So it's not a bad thing. Again, as far as the stigma that was attached to it back in the days where, you know, you'd have a person come out of high school and their idea was to work 30 years with the same employer and get that pension. That is not the mindset in today's workforce. So keep that information in mind. But if you're going to do it again, do it the right way.
Very true. We're going to switch gears a little bit here. We're going to talk about social media and thinking about our net reputation. If you take a look here, here's some recognizable social media sites. The post you see on the screen, you know, if it were found by a coworker or a supervisor, or just, you know, reported to a manager, it may be an indicator to your employer that you are looking to leave or leaving any day now. While they may not up and fire you because of a post, it's important to recognize that engaging in negative posts don't usually yield positive results. Legislation continues to roll out defining the limits organizations have on using social media to make employment decisions. Now, those employment decisions have to do with hiring. You know, can you take whatever information's out there and use that in your hiring decision, as well as for disciplinary reasons? Can we discipline employees for, you know, the information they put out there on the social networking sites? Also, from a termination standpoint, can we terminate employees for specific information that's put out there on the social networking websites? So every employer, based on the legislation, again, that continues to roll out, their policies more than likely are going to change in regards to this, depending, again, on the legislation that comes out regarding the social sites and what's put out there by their employees. You know, it really is a hot topic, and I'd like to look at one more possibility for a post here. I was thinking about posting on my page this morning. Is it a good idea? So my boss is such a blank. Yeah, I want to be very careful, again, how I finish this status update. In fact, again, as we've talked about it, I would definitely recommend we avoid something like this altogether. This can't end well unless you understand my boss. This is such a joy to work for. That may be the best way to approach that one. But on this topic, inappropriate pictures, posts should be carefully considered or simply avoided. They never go away once posted. I think that's a common misconception that's out there. You know, those pictures from spring break may not show you in the best light when you're you know, being considered by a prospective employer. Maybe there's somebody that has a department that peruses the web looking for profiles that people have out there. That may not say the things about you that you want it to. Because it is a common misconception that if I post a status update, I vent about my day, I post something, in frustration, that like verbal communication, it's a quick spout off and then all is forgotten, all is made well, I feel better about it, I vented, I'm done. But the fact is, however, that once it's out there, it's out there forever. It doesn't go away. So very important to keep those things in mind. I will answer one quick question on the chat here. Do employers really Google prospective employees to do research on them before hiring? That is not something that we do. I can't speak for all organizations out there. I would say that there is probably folks that do that in some way, but again, I don't know that. And again, the legislation that DeAndre is referring to would put limits on things such as that. So, good question. And unfortunately, not a solid answer, but not a good practice for any organization to be doing at this point. The interview process should be solid as it is. Now we've touched on several topics, including
including some quitting do's and don'ts, some strategies for leaving a job positively, and the impact of social media. Thank you for your time today. We do thank IPFW's Career Services staff for hosting the informational session that we've had here today, the ones that have been in the past and also in the future, to better prepare all of us, not just us who are behind the mics and behind the cameras, but for you all in your post-college success. Truly appreciate it. Is there any other questions out there or any feedback that you all would like to either ask or provide us with?
I do want to take a minute real quick. There was a question out there. Is it better to get yourself fired or quit to get unemployment benefits? I would never recommend, again, this is me personally talking, but I would never recommend anyone to purposely try to get fired. Unemployment fraud is a very big deal, so very important that you, if you have any questions about that, definitely talk to Career Services, take a look at the Department of Labor website when it comes to unemployment. That would never be an Once again, we thank you all for your time. As you see on the screen here, we do have our email addresses there. If you have any questions about the webinar or any feedback, hey, you guys were terrible, please don't come back again. We'd like to hear any feedback that you have for us, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you.